It felt like a dream, a $300 million inheritance in our own family business. But as soon as my sister-in-law Mary started celebrating my father's inheritance, the whispers among the employees began. They were thrilled, but Mary couldn't contain her excitement and declared, "Everyone, quiet down. This is the moment my husband will inherit the company and $3 million." At that, one of the employees burst out laughing, unable to control himself. My older brother, who was sitting beside his bewildered wife, was holding the will, reading it aloud from the lawyer. His face drained of color as he went on. "Look at this," he said, handing the document to Mary. Her scream echoed through the room. "My name is Lucy, and I'm 29 years old. I've been working at my father's company for several years now. My father, with his remarkable vision, built this business from the ground up when he was young. Over the years, it has grown into a modest-sized enterprise with a dedicated team of employees. I remember even as a child, understanding how hard it was for my father to carry the burden of debt while trying to grow the company. As the company expanded, I was eager to help my mother, who managed the clerical work. Though my parents encouraged me to go to college and follow my own path, my dream was always to work alongside them, contributing to the company my father had poured his life into. That was my first thought when I began considering my career after high school. Bob, a seasoned employee, became my mentor when I joined the company. He took the time to teach me the basics of the business, never treating me as just the president's daughter. Thanks to Bob, I gained a deeper understanding of the company's operations. On the other hand, my brother Tom, who's just 2 years older than me, pursued a degree in management. Even as a teenager, he took pride in telling his college friends that his father owned a business and that he would one day take over. His friends would ask, "What will you do after graduation, Tom? Are you looking for a job?" He'd respond confidently, "I don't need to search for a job. I'll be working at my father's company, gaining management experience until it's time for me to become president." One of his friends once remarked, "So you're going to be the next president? Your future's set then. I'm jealous." "Tom, you've got a younger sister, right? Isn't there going to be a fight over who's going to take over the company?" "My sister?" Tom smirked. "Yeah, she's around, but she's just a high school graduate and pretty simple-minded." "That's something you mention often," his friend remarked. "She seems to be doing some behind-the-scenes work at the company. If I become president, I'll keep her on as long as she does what I say." While Tom squandered money and indulged in reckless behavior under the pretense of gaining managerial experience, he reveled in the attention of his friends who admired his perceived power. Women flocked to him, eager to date the future president of the company. Tom eventually married the most glamorous and attractive woman he could find, Mary. Their wedding was a grand affair, followed by a luxurious honeymoon abroad. They built a mansion and started their married life in opulence, all supposedly to cement Tom's status as the company's future president. Mary seemed content, enjoying a life of extravagance with a husband who catered to her every whim. I knew she'd never be interested in a life like mine, working alongside my mother, quietly supporting the company from behind the scenes. "Lucy, you don't look like a CEO's daughter, do you?" Mary would say, smirking whenever we met at family gatherings. "You don't really seem like the daughter of a company president." "I don't care for a lavish lifestyle," I replied. She looked at me with a mix of pity and disdain. "I feel sorry for you. You were born the daughter of a company president, but you have no idea how to enjoy the wealth. What? Living at home with your parents and having plenty of money, so you don't need to work hard? That's not the point. With your title as the president's daughter, shouldn't men be chasing after you?" Tom chimed in. "She's right. Lucy's always been modest. Too modest. No one would guess her father's the president, and she treats the other employees like equals. It's surprising." "There's still so much I need to learn about my job," I countered. "Many of my colleagues are more skilled than I am, so I can't act like I'm above them." Tom scoffed, "And that's why you're useless. A boss needs to stand tall and command respect, not let the subordinates look down on them. Leave the mundane tasks to the employees." "I suppose my father and I are the only real bosses in this house," I replied, my voice firm. "You shouldn't look down on your subordinates, no matter how powerful you are," I added. "That's something my father believes too." But before I could say more, my brother cut me off, clearly irritated. "A logical woman isn't exactly popular with men," he snapped. Mary quickly chimed in. "If you keep talking like that, I'm sure you'll never get married. You should work on making yourself more appealing. Don't you think, Tom?" Tom nodded, a smirk on his face. Yeah, well, when I'm president, I might just fire a humble employee like you. With that, they said their piece and left, not bothering to stick around for a response. My mother, who had remained silent during the entire exchange, comforted me after they were gone. You're doing an excellent job at the company, Lucy. Your father and I are so grateful for all the help you've given us. Don't worry about what Tom says. My father nodded in agreement, his face set in a stern expression. My parents had confronted my brother about his attitudes before, but after that, he and Mary had been so upset that they stopped visiting for over a month. Remembering the tense atmosphere during that time, I had suggested to my parents, let Tom and Mary say whatever they want. Since then, Tom and Mary continued to live their lives as they please, dining at the finest restaurants and vacationing at the most luxurious resorts. They wanted everyone to believe that Tom was destined to take over my father's corporation. Meanwhile, my father was working tirelessly to expand the business. But one night, while we were at home, he suddenly clutched his chest in pain. Dad, are you all right? Try to relax. I'll call an ambulance, I said, panic rising in my voice. Lucy, listen, my father gasped, his voice strained. As we waited for the ambulance, he pointed toward a drawer. There's a letter for you in there, he said. I quickly went to the drawer and found the letter he was talking about. I want you to read this if anything happens to me, he said, his breath labored, just before losing consciousness. Despite my frantic efforts and the arrival of the ambulance, my father passed away without ever regaining consciousness. My brother and Mary were on a vacation at the time, and they didn't make it back in time to be there when he passed. They returned 2 days later, after the funeral arrangements had already been set in motion. At the end of the funeral, Tom remarked casually, well, at least we got here on time. I never imagined Dad would pass away while we were away. I was stunned. My brother and Mary arrived at the funeral as if it were just another social event, completely indifferent to the fact that my mother and I had handled everything in their absence. I pulled Tom aside, trying to keep my voice low so the employees wouldn't overhear. Couldn't you have come home sooner? I asked, frustration simmering beneath my calm tone. We couldn't. We had already booked our return flight, Tom replied, not the least bit apologetic. Then turning to the employees, he announced, thank you all for your help. From now on, leave it to me to honorably take my father's place. Mary looked around at the now silent employees and added with an air of self-importance, of course, that's what Tom would do. Everyone is speechless because they're so impressed, right? It's only natural, considering his dignity. My brother, brimming with pride, turned to me. Lucy, isn't the ceremony about to start? Please hurry and show us the way. I was seething inside, his arrogance, his late arrival, everything grated on me. But I led him and Mary to the table where the meal ceremony was to take place. Throughout the meal, Tom continued to display his condescending attitude. Isn't the quality of this food a bit supper, Lucy? This doesn't reflect well on our father's reputation as president. My mother and I had carefully selected the menu, and his criticism was unwarranted. I bit back my retort, knowing it wouldn't change anything. But Tom wasn't done. He began giving orders not only to me but to the employees as well, dismissing their efforts with a wave of his hand. You're all pointless, he said, directing his disdain toward Bob, one of our most experienced and respected employees. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I rushed to intervene. Tom, stop it. Don't be disrespectful to Bob. He's done more for this company than you can imagine. Tom scoffed. Why should I be humble in front of a mere employee? These people should be showing more respect to me, the president. I stood there, grappling with the frustration of watching my brother, someone who had done nothing to earn the respect he demanded, belittle the very people who had helped build the company from the ground up. Mary, emboldened by Tom's outburst, turned on me with fury. That's right, Lucy. Stop talking down to Tom. He's the company's president now, and if you keep disobeying him, he'll fire you. He has the authority. Just as my brother and Mary were ranting, a man entered the room. Excuse my interruption, he said calmly. Your father asked me to oversee his inheritance. He was the lawyer my father had hired before he passed. I suddenly remembered my father mentioning that he had taken care of everything, including hiring a lawyer, years before his death. It was clear that my father had been preparing for this moment for a long time. My brother and Mary's eyes lit up at the mention of the inheritance. They eagerly welcomed the lawyer. Thank you for coming, Tom said, practically salivating at the thought. The sooner we get this over with, the better. Come on in. But as Tom spoke with the lawyer, his expression quickly changed. Wasn't my father's inheritance worth $300 million? Mary's eyes widened in excitement. $300 million? That's incredible. It's like a dream come true. Hearing this, the employees began to whisper among themselves. Sensing their curiosity, Mary turned to them with a smug smile. Quiet, everyone. This is the moment when the company and its $300 million inheritance officially passed to Tom. But as Tom read the will, his face drained of color. Mary, noticing the shift, asked, "What's wrong, Tom?" Tom's voice shook as he read aloud. According to the will, the entire company is to be given to the eldest daughter, Lucy. He stared at the document in disbelief, then shouted, "This can't be right. This is impossible." The lawyer, maintaining his composure, responded, "This is a legally enforceable will." Tom's anger boiled over. "What? I don't care. How could Lucy be made president instead of me? Dad must have been losing his mind in his old age. This will is invalid." At that moment, something snapped inside me. I couldn't allow these two to disrespect my father, who had worked tirelessly to build this company. "Enough," I shouted. "The idea of you becoming president is what's truly unthinkable." Tom glared at me, his pride wounded. "Are you saying I'm unfit to be president?" Without hesitation, I replied, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. How can you lead this company when you've never even contributed to it?" Tom scoffed, desperate to justify himself. "Don't be ridiculous. Mary and I built a house fit for a president, and we've worked hard to present ourselves as worthy of the title." I met his gaze, unwavering. "Do you mean that mansion, completely out of touch with reality, or the endless fancy dinners? That's not leadership, it's a waste of money, and didn't Dad cover most of those costs for you?" Tom's confidence faltered. "How would you know that?" I took a deep breath, then said, "Before he died, Dad left me a letter. In it, he detailed all the money he spent on you, and he made it clear that it was considered a gift during his lifetime. That means your share of the estate is practically nothing." Panic flashed in Mary's eyes. "Wait a minute. Are you saying the $300 million isn't part of our inheritance? That's not fair. We barely got anything." An employee who had been laughing earlier stepped forward and explained to Mary that $300 million comes from the company's value, not personal assets. "I think everyone here is well aware of that." "Company money," Mary stammered. "But isn't that something we can inherit?" I shook my head. "No, Mary, company funds are not part of the family inheritance. Tom's share is negligible." Mary's face fell. "That's heartbreaking." Tom, however, was not ready to admit defeat. He stood up suddenly, a wild look in his eyes. "Do you really want a plain woman like Lucy to be your president?" he shouted at the employees. "You must think I'm more qualified. I have just as much charisma as my father." But the room remained silent. Bob, one of our longest-serving employees, stepped forward and spoke up. "Your father was a charismatic leader who built this company from the ground up. But you, Tom, are not the same as your father." Tom's face twisted with anger. "What are you saying?" Bob continued calmly, "What you have is arrogance, not charisma. You look down on us, and that's not something we can respect." Tom's rage erupted, but no one in the room seemed swayed by his outburst. It was clear that the legacy my father left behind wasn't just about the money or the title, it was about the respect and loyalty he had earned from those who worked alongside him. When the employee calmly refuted him, Tom retorted, "You may work for our company, but we, the employees, rarely see you around." "That's because I don't have time to do any real work for the company. I've been too busy networking. I couldn't waste my time on tasks anyone could handle." Bob wasn't swayed. "You call going on trips and partying networking? Is that really all you have to say?" Meanwhile, Lucy has been here every day, learning about the company and handling crucial but quiet tasks. Her dedication mirrors that of your father. Lucy is the right person to lead this company, and we all stand by her. The other employees nodded in agreement, their support evident. I was deeply moved and said, "Thank you all so much. I'll admit, this news is unexpected, but having seen my father's passion for this company, I share that same commitment. I look forward to working closely with all of you." The employees responded with warm applause as I bowed in gratitude. Encouraged by their support, I spoke with determination. "Everyone here is a valued member of our team. Anyone who disrespects you is unfit to be an employee, let alone the company's president. Such a person can and will be fired." Tom's irritation flared up again. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm your brother. I met his eyes and replied, and yet you said you'd fire me if you became president. Now you understand. It's not about family ties. It's about competence. Tom's face twisted with frustration. I can't believe this. Someone please speak up for me. But no one did. His plea was met with cold stares, and realizing he was alone, Tom and Mary fled the scene in disgrace. After that day, Tom lost his job and lived off the small inheritance he had received. But the money quickly dwindled. Desperate, he came to me, asking, "Can you lend me some money, Lucy?" I refused. His refusal to find a job and his continued reliance on family disgusted me. I told my mother firmly that we shouldn't give him any more money. His friends, who had once flocked to him, disappeared once they learned he had lost his position. Mary, who had married Tom with dreams of being the wife of a company president, found herself abandoned by her friends as well. As their financial situation worsened, they were forced to sell their mansion. The money from the sale gave them a brief respite, but without any income, their savings soon ran out. When they finally accepted that they needed to work, they discovered that no one was willing to hire them. They had never held a real job in their lives. Tom eventually found a part-time job at a convenience store. Now, he struggles with work he is unaccustomed to, receiving criticism from younger colleagues. Mary, who could no longer live as a full-time housewife, joined the ranks of the part-time workers she once mocked, working as a cashier at a supermarket for a modest salary. Meanwhile, I have been applying everything I learned from my behind-the-scenes work to help the company thrive. With the unwavering support of Bob and the other employees, the business has continued to grow. In a way, my brother's downfall has only strengthened the unity among us. I'm determined to keep working hard alongside my mother, ensuring that our company's success continues as a tribute to my father's legacy.